Good morning, everyone. It's Helen here with Helen. Thanks for joining me. So I'm going to share something with you guys today that I feel like may help you if your future employer ever wants to do a urine test on you for your job. I haven't had to do this in over 20 years, so a lot has really changed. I show up at the facility. I got to pick between 2 or 3 different ones. I show up at the facility and I go to check in, and there's a whole new thing. Every time I go somewhere, there's new technology. And as a lot of you guys know, I'm not like the techiest person, or my videos would be way more quality than they are, but I do my best. But they have this little machine where you just pop in your driver's license, flip it back and forth, insurance card, flip it back and forth. So you're basically doing everything kind of on your own. And then you kind of go over, give a number so they can look up the order that, for the company that you're going to go work with. And then that's it. And so I got through that process. And on the way over, though, I was already feeling puny. I was feeling dehydrated. I just wasn't feeling good at all. And so I was already kind of drinking some water, just wanted to get in, wanted to get out. So I'm sitting there and I'm waiting. Now, the lady comes to get me. And how many people know that some people are really, really pleasant and some aren't so pleasant? Sadly, this one that I dealt with to begin with, she just was she wasn't the friendliest, but I'm trying not to make assumptions. She might have been having a bad day. Maybe she doesn't like her job. I don't know. But she calls me back, and already I could tell there's a little disconnect. There's a vibe in the air. We get to the back bathroom, and guys, it's been a minute. Like I said, 20 years. So I'm going to have to be like a 5-year-old where I'm like, I'm going to need you to give me step by step on what we're going to do here. And so she starts telling me that I'm going to have to remove my sweatshirt, and hopefully I have on a shirt underneath. And I was just like, well, I have a little tank top, but yeah, I'm like, why am I removing my clothes? And so now I kind of get an understanding, because maybe they see all sorts of things when people are going in there to take urine tests for drug tests and that. And so, but she asks me to remove my sweatshirt, put it in this big metal container, remove my hat, put my purse in there, put my bottle of water in there, put the lid down, give her the keys, and that was that. So we got through that, and then I'm standing in the room. It's cold. I'm in this little tank top, and already I'm kind of shivering, and I was just like, what the heck? and then she asks me to grab a cup out of the drawer. I get to touch it at that point. So I'm like, oh, okay. And then she snatches it out of my hand really fast, and she's like, no, I just need you to grab the cup. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. I was just going to help pull back that little tinfoil thing on top. But so she took it, and then she gave me instructions. Like she said, read the wall, read through all these instructions. You guys, this was like an essay. It was like an essay. And I'm thinking, I'm not going to read all that, first of all. And 2, I can't, because I couldn't even see the writing. It was so tiny. And so I'm like, we would be sitting there for an hour had I read that whole thing. And then she's like, make sure you read it and understand it, and then go and do it. And I'm like, oh no. So I just said, so basically I just need to go use the restroom and do this and give the cup back to you. And she was just like, yeah, pretty much. And so I was like, okay. So I go in the restroom. They tell you not to flush the toilet. You can't do anything. You have to meet a marker on the cup. So she's like, I need you to at least meet this marker. And so at this point, like I said, I'm feeling dehydrated. I'm like, oh my goodness, I hope that I make that marker. And I know that this is kind of funny, because guys, if you know me at all, I have the bladder of a kitten. You literally almost can't usually get me out of a bathroom. And so I'm like, the fact that I'm even worried about this, that's comical in itself. So I'm thinking, Lord Jesus, please just help me. I want to get out of this place. And so I'm in there, and I barely hit that little marker, right at the mark. And I'm thinking, okay, we're going to be good. I go back in there, and she's standing there, and I hand it to her. And I was just like, well, I hope that this is enough, and I was just kind of just being nice and optimistic. And she had to fill up a vial. And then she was going to try to fill up a second vial, but she's like, if I can't, or container, but if I can't get there, then she said, I at least need half. Okay, guys. So we got through the one. I'm like, okay, cool. And then on the second one, we got about right here. We didn't get to the full half, but we got about right here. We were right there. And I'm like, oh, that should be okay, right? Right? And then she was just like, nope, we're going to have to do it again. And I was like, again? It's like I had nothing left in me. Nothing. There was not even a drop left in me. So I'm like, okay, well, what's this going to look like? She looks right at me, you guys. She takes the bottles that are there of mine, and she chucks them in the trash right in front of me. She actually took them and threw them right in the trash. And I'm like, And I'm like, well, I couldn't just go again here in a few minutes and just finish up that tiny little space and just add it to it. Like, there was no way I was going to be able to fill up another bottle and then a half a bottle. Like, it wasn't there. And so she just threw it away. And then she was just like, well, now we're going to have to go in the waiting room and you're going to have to drink some water. And if you leave, that's a refusal to test. And I will send that to your future employer. I'm like, wow, this is insane. And so I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, great. But then they're like, but you can't drink your own water. And I'm like, okay, but guys, if you know me, I'm an acid reflux sufferer. So the reason I actually choose certain different brands of water is because they actually help with my stomach and help with my GI and help with my acid reflux. And I know that some people are like, really? Really? It's a real deal thing. So if you're an acid reflux sufferer, I'm not going to go off on this bunny trail though. Drink Fiji or find a different water that will work really, really good for you because it does make a difference. Okay, so they're not going to let me drink my water. And then she's like, we're going to have you drink 4 cups. Like, it was like a pretty good sized cup too. She said, we're going to have you drink 4 cups of this, and then we're going to have you try again. And I'm like, okay. And so I went, got my first cup. I started drinking it. Guys, it was disgusting. It was like lukewarm, like poop water. It was like poo. And I was like, oh my goodness. I took the first couple sips and I'm like, And I already wasn't feeling good. So I'm thinking, how am I going to drink 4 of these? And so I sat there for an hour and drank those cups of water. Warm, nasty, disgusting water. In fact, it was so gross that I wanted to find out, like, where did you get this water from? That's how bad it was. And I was looking, I was like, okay, well, I see that they kind of have some little water bottles in the back, on the counter. I was like, maybe that's what they're using. They were like going into like a little room to fill it. So I know it was just some normal, nasty, yucky water from somewhere. And I was just like, ew, ick, and yuck. After I finished drinking 3.5 glasses of that, guys, I felt so sick. My stomach was going. I was like, oh no. And so finally I went up to the front and I'm like, I think I'm going to be able to do this. And so I got a nice new lady who was as sweet as they come. And I'm like, thank you, Lord Jesus. She brings me back and I'm like about to start undressing stuff again. She's like, oh no, you don't have to do that. And I'm like, why did that first lady make me do that? I didn't ask because I wanted to get out of there. And I know people are different with different like things, but I was just like, she made it out to be like the most scariest, most like intimidating thing. And then this breath of fresh air was just like, no, just take off your hat. It's fine. No, keep everything on. You're good to go. And the process was completely different in the same exact office. And I'm like, how can 2 people be so different and the experience be so different when you are working in the same facility? That should tell us something. But she was sweet. She let me come in there and we did the same thing. I grabbed the cup and she was super nice. We went through the process. I went in to the restroom. I came back. Everything was good. Plenty enough to fill up the bottles. And she was like, have the best day. And I was like, oh, thank you. And I was able to leave. So my whole point, moral of the story, if you have to go and give one of these tests, a urine test for a drug test or pre-employment test, whatever it is that you're doing, the thing that I want you to do is go in there and be extremely hydrated. That was my tip of the day, because then you're not going to have to go through what I had to go through in order to do that. And like I said, they said, if you leave, they will send it to your employer that it was a refusal to test for this. So you don't get to leave. You're going to be stuck there and you're not going to get to drink your own water bottle either. And so make sure you're hydrated, drink a bunch of water. I know that they said a lot of people, and I think it's probably pretty common, they get nervous or they get scared. And so they're just unable to urinate. They're not able to do it. And I guess I could see that that's a real thing. I've actually talked to people who have had that problem in the past, and I'm thinking, how could you not? Because like I said, I am somebody who can so go whenever because I'm like a kitten bladder. And so for me, I couldn't believe it, but now I've experienced it firsthand. And do not go in there when you're like dehydrated, and just make sure that you've drank a ton of water, maybe even a little coffee, and maybe even a little bit of food, because everything just flows better that would be my suggestion to you before you just show up there and you've only had like a little bit of water, you're not feeling good, and you haven't had breakfast. So anyways, guys, I thought that this would help. I thought it was an interesting story because I was texting my family members. I don't feel good. I'm nauseous. I think I'm going to faint. Because that was all while I was drinking that nasty, disgusting water and just hoping and praying that I wasn't going to have to go try again in order to just have to go and try again. Can you imagine? We probably wouldn't even be making this video. Had I not the second time been able to and had to sit there again through all of that, I don't know what would have happened to me, okay? I'm exaggerating just a little, but not too much, not too much. So anyways, guys, have a blessed day. Hope this helps.